They teased her worn backpack, until the instructor's hands trembled when he noticed the blood seal. The lecture hall of the Interstellar Defense Academy was built to impress. Wide silver panels curved overhead, lights adjusted themselves to every species' vision, and rows of desks displayed personal holograms filled with advanced data. Everything in the room spoke of wealth, technology, and power. Everything except her. She entered quietly, just another human cadet in a plain academy uniform. Her boots were clean but clearly old, the fabric of her jacket softened by time. Over one shoulder hung a backpack that looked like it belonged in a museum, rather than the most advanced military academy in known space. The material was faded, the corners worn thin, and several careful stitches held parts together where newer gear would have replaced them entirely. A few heads turned. At first there were only looks, then came whispers. "That thing still works," a tall cadet from a crystal-skinned species muttered, his eyes narrowing with amusement. Another cadet leaned closer to her neighbor. "Is that cloth, actual cloth?" Soft laughter spread across the room, bouncing from desk to desk. It wasn't loud enough for the instructors to hear, but it was loud enough for her. She did not react. Her face stayed calm, almost distant, as if the sound meant nothing to her at all. She walked to an empty seat near the back and placed the backpack carefully under the desk, not tossing it aside like the others did with their gear. Her movements were slow, respectful, as though the bag were fragile or important. A floating display above the front of the hall flickered to life as the instructor entered. He was not human. His species stood taller, with long arms and eyes adapted to see in multiple spectrums. Years of command showed in his posture and voice. This was Instructor Verk, a veteran of 3 interstellar conflicts and a figure most cadets feared. "Take your seats," he said. The room went silent at once. Today's lesson was practical assessment. Equipment mattered in the Defense Academy. Gear often decided who survived and who didn't. Verk believed that if a cadet did not respect their tools, they would not respect the battlefield. "We will begin with standard inspection," he announced. "All cadets will place their primary field equipment on the desk." Desks slid open, compartments glowing as advanced packs unfolded themselves. Smooth alloys, self-repairing fibers, compact power cores. The backpacks adjusted shape automatically, responding to the owner's biometrics. They hummed softly with contained energy. Then there was her backpack. She lifted it slowly and placed it on the desk. It made a faint sound when it touched the surface, not the smooth hum of powered equipment, but the quiet thud of something solid and real. The contrast was impossible to ignore. Someone snorted. Someone else laughed openly this time. "Is that even Academy approved?" a voice whispered too loudly. Verk moved down the aisle, inspecting each piece of equipment with a practiced eye. He made brief comments, small corrections, nothing unusual. His expression barely changed as he passed one advanced pack after another. Then he reached her desk. He stopped. At first, no one noticed. The room was used to pauses during inspection. But seconds passed, then more. The instructor did not move on. His long fingers hovered above the backpack, not touching it. His eyes narrowed slightly, pupils adjusting as he changed visual modes. The laughter faded. Verk leaned closer. The backpack looked old, that much was obvious. But now, under the instructor's focused gaze, something else became visible. Inside the lining, barely noticeable unless one knew where to look, was a faint mark. It was not glowing. It did not move. It was simply there, stitched deep into the fabric, almost hidden by time. Verk's breathing changed. Very slowly, he reached out and brushed 2 fingers along the inner seam. The room felt colder. "Cadet," he said, his voice lower than before. "Step forward." She stood without hesitation and moved to the front of her desk. Her face showed no fear, no pride, just calm. "What is your name?" Verk asked. "Cadet Mara Ellison," she replied. The instructor looked at her, really looked at her now. Human, young, no visible enhancements, no signs of wealth, just a quiet presence and steady eyes. "Where did you obtain this item?" he asked. "It belonged to my family," she said. "I was authorized to carry it." Authorized, the word caught his attention. "Authorized by whom?" Verk pressed. "My grandmother," Mara answered simply, "and before her my great-grandfather." Some cadets rolled their eyes. Family stories were common, old traditions, human sentimentality. None of it usually mattered here, but Verk did not laugh. He straightened and raised one hand. The doors to the lecture hall sealed with a low hiss. Red indicator lights blinked once, then steadied. Murmurs rippled through the room. This inspection is paused, Verk announced. Remain seated, do not activate any devices. A few cadets shifted uncomfortably. This was not normal. Inspections did not end with sealed doors. Verk turned back to the backpack. With careful precision, he adjusted the desk scanners to a manual mode rarely used anymore. Data scrolled across his personal display. His eyes widened. The readings made no sense by modern standards. The material composition was simple, almost primitive, yet layered with treatments that modern science still struggled to fully explain. The stitching pattern was not decorative. It was functional, each thread placed with intention, and the mark inside the lining. Verk's hands trembled. He recognized it now. A blood seal, ancient, human, rare beyond belief. The concept was taught only once in Academy history as a footnote. During humanity's earliest expansion, before alliances, before trust, humans had developed systems that did not rely on machines alone. Blood seals were genetic locks, activated only by specific lineages, bonded not to technology but to living people. They were used for things that could not be allowed to fall into the wrong hands. Verk looked up at Mara again. "You understand what this mark represents?" he asked quietly. "Yes, sir," she replied. "Then you understand why carrying such an item openly is unusual." She nodded. "Yes, sir. Why do it then?" Mara glanced briefly around the room, at the cadets who had laughed, at the ones who now avoided her eyes, at the sleek equipment that suddenly felt less impressive. "Because it still works," she said. Silence followed. Verk closed his display and stepped back. For a moment he seemed older than his years of service suggested. "Return to your seat," he ordered. She obeyed, lifting the backpack with the same careful motion and placing it back under the desk. The instructor faced the class. "Today's lesson is concluded," he said. "You are dismissed." Confusion spread instantly. "But sir," one cadet began. "Dismissed," Verk repeated, his voice sharp, the doors unsealed. Cadets stood slowly, gathering their gear. No one laughed now, no one spoke loudly. Eyes followed Myra as she rose and slipped the backpack over her shoulder. As she walked toward the exit, the fabric brushed against her uniform, soft and familiar. To everyone else, it was just an old bag. To her, it was a promise. And to Instructor Verk, watching her leave, it was something far more dangerous. It was proof that humanity had never stopped preparing. Not even when everyone else thought they had nothing left to fear. The Academy did not return to normal after that day. Whispers followed Myra Ellison through the halls like a quiet shadow. No one openly mocked her anymore, but the silence felt heavier than the laughter had been. Cadets who once ignored her now watched from a distance, trying to understand what they had seen without truly knowing what it meant. Instructor Verk requested a private review within the hour. Myra sat alone in a secure chamber beneath the academy, her backpack resting on the metal table in front of her. The room was plain, designed to remove distractions. No windows, no decorations, just walls, light, and silence. She waited calmly. When the door opened, Verk entered with two senior officials. Both were non-human, both wearing insignia that marked them as far above instructors. Their expressions were controlled, but their attention was fixed on the backpack. "Cadet Ellison," one of them said. "You are aware that this item triggered restricted alerts?" "Yes," Mara replied. "You did not declare it during intake," the other official said. "I was not required to," she answered. "It is personal property." Verk stepped closer to the table. "Personal, yes. Ordinary, no." He activated a layered scanner, far more powerful than anything used in the lecture hall. Light passed over the backpack in careful waves. Data streams filled the air, then froze. The system struggled. "That should not happen," one official muttered. "The material resists passive scanning," Verk said. "Not by force, by design." Mara remained silent. Verk looked at her again. "You said it was passed through your family." "Yes." "How long?" She thought for a moment. "At least 4 generations, maybe more." The officials exchanged looks. "The seal is intact," Verk continued. "Untouched, that alone is unusual. Most blood seals degrade or are activated within decades." "It was never meant to be used casually," Mara said. "Only when needed." "Needed for what?" one official asked. Mara met his gaze. "Survival." The room grew still. Verk took a slow breath. "Do you know what is inside?" "No, sir, not completely." "Yet you carry it." "Yes." "Why?" she answered without hesitation. "Because it trusted us." The officials paused. That answer did not fit any standard logic model. Verk dismissed them with a gesture. I will continue alone. Reluctantly, they left. When the door sealed again, the room felt quieter than before. You understand, Verk said carefully, that many in this academy see humans as adaptable, clever, and brave, but predictable. Mara listened. They believe humans survived early expansion because you learned to cooperate, he continued, to form alliances, to share burdens. She nodded slightly. That's part of it. Only part? He asked. Yes. Verk studied her for a long moment. The blood seal suggests something else. It suggests humanity prepared for betrayal. Mara did not argue. Who taught you about the seal? Verk asked. My grandmother, she said. She said humans learned early that help might not come, so they learned to help themselves quietly. Verk activated a limited interface. I'm going to request a controlled response from the seal. Mara's posture changed, not defensive but alert. It will not open, she said. Not for you. I know, he replied. I only want confirmation. The scanner hummed. The backpack did nothing. Then, without warning, a single line of data appeared on the display. Authorized carrier confirmed. Verk felt his chest tighten. That response alone should be impossible, he whispered. Mara tilted her head. It's not recognizing you, it's recognizing me. Which means it is alive in some sense, he said, or at least aware. Human systems often blur that line, she replied. Verk leaned back. You are young to carry something like this. I was trained, she said, not in combat, in responsibility. By whom? Family and records. Records of what? Our mistakes, Mara said, and how close we came to not surviving them. Verk lowered his voice. The Academy Board will want control of this item. They won't get it, Mara said calmly. That is not your decision. She looked at him steadily. It is. Verk did not raise his voice. You are a cadet. Yes, and this backpack is older than your academy. Silence returned. Verk exhaled slowly. You understand the position this puts me in? Yes, and yet you chose to enroll here. Yes, why? He asked again. Mara considered her words. Because hiding forever isn't survival, it's delay. Verk felt something shift inside him, not fear. Recognition, the door opened again. An alert sounded softly in the room. Instructor, a voice announced. External inquiry detected. From where? Verk asked. Multiple allied databases, the system replied, all referencing legacy human protocols. Verk's eyes widened. That seal is waking systems outside this academy. Mara nodded. It does that when attention reaches a certain level. You didn't activate it, he said. No, she agreed. They did. Verk understood then, the teasing, the mockery, the public moment. It had all been a test, even if the cadets never knew it. Humans did not hide power forever. They revealed it carefully. Verk stood straight. You will return to regular classes. Yes, sir. And the backpack? Stays with me. He hesitated, then nodded. I will file a protection order. For me? She asked. For the academy, he said honestly. Mara allowed herself a small smile. As she left the secure chamber, the halls felt different. Screens flickered with minor alerts. Systems adjusted quietly. Something old had been noticed. Far above the academy, deep within forgotten data vaults and dormant networks, human protocols stirred. Not in alarm, in readiness. Mara walked on, backpack steady on her shoulder, knowing this was only the beginning. The change did not arrive with alarms or flashing lights. It came quietly. By the third day after the sealed inspection, the Academy's systems behaved differently. Doors opened a second faster when Mara approached. Training simulators adjusted difficulty without explanation. Old data archives, rarely accessed, began logging activity again. No one announced it. No one admitted it, but Instructor Verk noticed everything. Mara continued her routine like any other cadet, morning drills, tactical theory, zero-gravity movement practice. She spoke little, followed orders, and never mentioned the backpack unless directly asked. It stayed with her at all times, resting against her back like it always had. Some cadets tried to return to normal, others could not. During combat simulation, a reptilian cadet hesitated before facing her, then made a mistake so basic that the system flagged it as emotional distraction. In another class, a group that once laughed at her now fell silent when she entered, unsure whether to greet her or stay away. Humans were common at the academy, but whatever Mara carried was not. Instructor Verk stood behind the observation glass as her squad ran a survival scenario. The environment was harsh. Low atmosphere, unstable terrain, limited resources. The task was simple on paper, reach the extraction point within the time limit. The squad argued. Their leader relied on the standard map and wasted time adjusting equipment. Mara said nothing at first. She watched the terrain, the wind patterns, the way the ground shifted under pressure. When the leader's plan failed, time already lost, she finally spoke. "The map is outdated," she said calmly. "The ground has moved." "How do you know?" the leader snapped. She pointed. "The shadows don't match the data. The rock layers are newer." They ignored her. Minutes later, the ground collapsed exactly where she had warned. The squad survived only because Mara reacted instantly, pulling one cadet clear and signaling an alternate route. They reached extraction with seconds to spare. Afterward, the instructor overseeing the simulation replayed the footage in silence. "She didn't hesitate," he said quietly. "No," Verk replied from behind him. "She assessed." Later that day, Verk received a message marked priority. Academy Board request, immediate briefing, human legacy artifact. The meeting chamber was full. High-ranking officials, representatives from allied species, and one silent human observer connected remotely. The backpack sat on the central platform untouched. "It is influencing systems," one board member said. "We need to know why." "It is not influencing," Verk corrected. "It is responding." "To what?" another demanded. "To attention," Verk said, "and to threats." They turned to the human observer on the screen, an older man, his hair gray, his expression unreadable. "You knew this existed," an official accused. The man nodded once. "We suspected. You allowed a cadet to carry it into a mixed-species military academy." "Yes, that was reckless." The human shook his head. "No, that was trust." Verk stepped forward. "The blood seal is intact. We cannot access the contents." "You don't need to," the human said. "It's not a weapon crate." "Then what is it?" someone asked. The human paused. "It's a memory." Confusion spread across the chamber. "A living one," he continued. "Not alive in the biological sense, but adaptive. It holds strategies, failures, survival logic, not commands, lessons." Verk felt a chill. "You built something that teaches," he said. "We built something that remembers," the human replied, "so we wouldn't forget what nearly ended us." "Why hide it?" an official demanded. "Because history shows that when humans display their worst-case plans, others try to control them," the human answered calmly. "So we hid them inside people instead of databases." Silence followed. "And now?" the official asked. "Now," the human said, "one of those people is here." The meeting ended without resolution. That night, the academy went into an unscheduled lockdown. No announcement, no drills. Just doors sealing, systems shifting to manual oversight, and a low alert that unsettled every species present. Myra felt it before anyone told her. The backpack grew warm against her back, not hot, not active, aware. She stopped walking and closed her eyes for a moment. Images surfaced, not visions, but impressions, patterns, old warnings, the feeling of being watched from very far away. Instructor Verk found her standing alone in the transit corridor. "You feel it," he said. "Yes," she replied. "What's happening?" "Someone noticed the notice," she said simply. He frowned. "That is not comforting," she looked at him. "It's honest." They moved to a secured observation deck overlooking the Academy's orbital space. Ships held position, waiting for clearance. Defense arrays adjusted slightly, not enough to alarm, but enough to prepare. "External signal detected," an officer reported. "Unknown origin, ancient encryption." Verk's breath caught. "Human?" "Partially," the officer said, "but not modern." Myra stepped forward. "It's a probe." "A weapon?" someone asked sharply. "No," she said. "A question." The signal pulsed again. The backpack responded, not with power, but with alignment. Systems across the academy synchronized briefly, then released. The probe adjusted its trajectory and stopped advancing. "It recognized the seal," Verk whispered. "Yes," Mara said. "It's checking if humans still exist the way they did." "And the answer?" Verk asked. She looked at the stars beyond the glass. "We do." The probe sent one final burst, then powered down, drifting harmlessly. Alarms cleared. Lockdown lifted. No attack came. The board reconvened an hour later, shaken. "That was a test," one official said. "Yes," Verk agreed, "and we passed." "Barely." The human observer spoke again. "That probe has been waiting for centuries. It was built by us, to wake only if certain conditions were met." "What conditions?" someone asked. The human looked directly at the camera. "Mockery." Confusion spread. "When humans are dismissed," he continued, "ignored, underestimated, that's when the seal begins to check the world again." Verk remembered the laughter in the lecture hall. "So it's not a weapon," he said slowly. "It's a filter." Yes, the human replied. We learned that the most dangerous time is when no one takes you seriously. The room fell silent. Mara returned to her quarters that night. She sat on her bed and carefully placed the backpack beside her. The warmth faded, returning to normal. She rested her hand on the fabric. You woke up, she whispered. Nothing answered. That was fine. Outside her window, the academy lights glowed steadily. Life continued. Classes would resume. Cadets would train. Alliances would remain intact. But something fundamental had shifted. Humanity's quiet preparation was no longer invisible. And somewhere in the dark between stars, systems older than the academy itself adjusted their assumptions. Humans were still here. And they were still ready. The academy changed, but not in ways that could be measured by sensors or reports. It changed in how people looked at one another. Classes resumed the next day, and no official announcement was made about the lockdown or the probe. The board decided silence was safer than explanation. Most cadets were told it was a system test. A few accepted that answer, most did not. Mara Ellison walked through the halls with the same steady pace as always. She did not stand taller. She did not act important. The backpack stayed on her shoulder, worn fabric against clean uniform, just another part of her. But people moved differently around her now. Some stepped aside without thinking. Others nodded in respect. A few watched with careful curiosity, as if trying to understand what kind of person carried history without showing it. Instructor Verk observed it all. In his years of service, he had seen fear turn into obedience and power turn into arrogance. What he saw now was different. It was awareness. The academy had learned something uncomfortable and could not unlearn it. During tactical theory, Verk posed a question to the class. "What is the most dangerous opponent?" he asked. Answers came quickly. One with superior weapons. One with numbers. One with advanced technology. Verk waited, then looked toward the back of the room. "Cadet Ellison," he said, "your answer." Mara considered. "The one you stopped paying attention to." The room fell quiet. Verk nodded. "Correct." He dismissed the class early that day. Later, the board requested one final meeting with Mara present. This time, the tone was different. No accusations, no demands, just careful words. "You understand," a senior official said, "that what you carry represents responsibility beyond this academy." "Yes," Mara replied, "and you still wish to remain a cadet?" "Yes." "Why?" another asked. Mara looked around the chamber, at beings from dozens of worlds. At flags that represented alliances built on shared fear and shared hope. "Because learning how others think matters," she said. "You can't prepare alone forever." Verk felt something tighten in his chest. That was the part many had missed. The human observer appeared again on the screen. "You've done well," he said to Mara. "I just followed instructions," she replied. He smiled faintly. That was the instruction. The board reached its decision. The backpack would remain with Mara. The academy would not attempt to copy access or replicate the blood seal. In return, humanity would continue sharing knowledge openly, as it always had. It was not a treaty. It was an understanding. Weeks passed. Life settled into a new rhythm. The academy returned to training schedules, exercises, and evaluations. But subtle changes remained. Equipment protocols were reviewed. Assumptions were questioned. No one laughed at worn gear anymore. During a joint exercise, Mara's unit faced a simulated enemy force that relied heavily on overwhelming firepower. Standard doctrine suggested retreat. Mara suggested something else. "They expect us to break contact," she said, "so don't." Her plan was simple, risky, human. They stayed quiet, they waited, they let the enemy overextend. Then they moved, not with superior force, but with timing. The exercise ended in their favor. Afterward, one of her teammates approached her. "Why didn't you say anything sooner?" he asked. "Because no one was listening yet," she replied. He nodded, understanding now. That night, Mara sat alone in the academy garden. Artificial stars reflected on still water. The backpack rested beside her. Instructor Verk joined her, standing at a respectful distance. "You know," he said, "some believe the seal's final function is still locked." "Yes," she said. "Do you know what triggers it?" She shook her head. "Only what it doesn't respond to." "And what is that?" "Pride," Mara answered. Verk considered that. "Then perhaps it will never open." "Or perhaps," she said, "it opens when it doesn't need to." Verk looked out at the stars. "Humans are strange," she smiled slightly. "We had to be." Far beyond the academy, ancient systems recorded the latest data. Threat models adjusted. Probability tables shifted. Humanity was no longer classified as fragile, nor was it classified as aggressive. A new category formed, prepared. Mara completed her first year with average scores. No awards, no special commendations, just steady progress. On the final day before break, a new group of cadets entered the lecture hall. Among them was a nervous young alien struggling with an old, mismatched kit. A few whispers started. Mara caught them. She stepped closer and helped adjust one of the straps. "It works," she said quietly. The whispers stopped. Instructor Verk watched from the front of the room and allowed himself a rare smile. The lesson had spread, not through fear, through example. As Mara left the hall, backpack secure on her shoulder, the blood seal remained silent. It had done its job, not by opening, but by reminding the galaxy of something it had almost forgotten. Humans do not need to announce their strength. They carry it. And when the time comes, the world notices.